Hi there, this is Catharine, River Rain, and we are the 22nd of October, 2013. I'm up here on the mountain in Montreal, and I'm here to talk about Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. Now, it just went retrograde yesterday, so I'm sorry the video is maybe a day late, but I was planning something special, so here it is. There's a few ways to talk about Mercury retrograde, but first I'm just going to go into a little bit about what Mercury represents in your chart or as a planet. Mercury is quite fascinating because if you look at the other pantheon where he is Hermes, he is the winged messenger god. He has a helmet with wings coming out of his helmet to symbolize his communication and also, of course, a higher connection to God. So a communication symbol with wings on the head. Very fascinating. So communication in this sense isn't strictly just, hey, how are you? I'm fine, good, you? Great. How's the weather? It's also communication with the divine. And it's also the other forms of communication we often don't talk about. For example, you're sitting with somebody, a good friend, and all of a sudden something happens over there. And you both look, and you look back, and you're like, right? You didn't have to say anything. You both intuited something. Something was clearly communicated between the two of you without words. That's, of course, my specialty. Intuition. Now, the other aspect, communication is body language, right? So, I can start talking to you like this. That's going to say something. I can start talking to you like this. It's going to say something else. I can be like, oh, always touching my face. Oh, I'm hiding something now. I'm insecure. I'm shy. It goes on and on and on, the study of body language. Just to say, this is another form of communication. Now, we're going to add Scorpio to the mix here. So what's Scorpio mean? Well, Scorpios always get a reputation. People always go, oh, you're a Scorpio, and the Scorpios are like, oh, why does everyone react this way? Scorpios are great people. They're very intense, and they are the ones that go down into the depths and seek for the truth, no matter how hard it is to find, no matter how much mud and dirt they gotta go through to get there. They're willing, on some level, to put themselves through this to arrive at some portion of truth. Now here's where we go back to the myth. Here's where it gets fun. Mercury, or Hermes, is the only god that goes from the upper world to the underworld. And in the underworld you encounter Pluto, or Hades, which is, if you want to put it in Christian terms, you could call it hell, but in terms of any other tradition that has a death and a rebirth cycle, it's simply the underworld, the dark side, the shadow, the death, and the rebirth. So Mercury, Hermes, goes through both. Very interesting, right? And so very interesting that it's in Scorpio right now, who also is looking at the underbelly now, going into the depths, into the dark, into the truth. So, already, Mercury in Scorpio is going to do this, even with no retrograde. So, we're in a period of a few weeks where it's a soul-searching time. It happens once a year, usually around this time of year, sometimes a bit later. But this is typically, you go within, look at your shadow, and increase your connection to faith, to God, to yourself. Now, what happens when we add retrograde motion in this? Okay, I've talked a bit before about Mercury retrograde, but I'm going to tell you again. So, the planets are all in an orbit, but they're also individually spinning on their own. So, when a planet starts to slow down, stop sometimes even, it'll station, okay? It'll go forward, station, and retrograde. It'll seem to go backwards while everything else is moving forwards. So this adds another element of depth and of introspection. And it also adds a very internal and now intuitive and psychic principle to that Mercury, because it's in a water sign, which is already fluid. Water and thought usually makes emotion, strong feeling, dreams, gut reactions, flashes, and intuition, psychic abilities. More than in an air sign where it's very intellectual, ordered, verbal, succinct. So we're dealing with an interior force in an already interior sign. So what does this mean for us for the next few weeks? Well, it's, as I said, really an excellent time if you wanted to begin or continue meditation practice, if you wanted to delve into developing your abilities, if you want to really keep a dream journal, and if you want to pretty much delve into the big questions of why. So the other aspect I wanted to bring up today about this is something called the Sabian symbols. Now these are quite interesting, and I think I'm going to start posting them every day, because the Sabian symbols are a series of allegories or stories, images, scenarios, quite precise, and there's one for every degree of the zodiac. So when astrologers use them, it's for predictive purposes. For example, our Mercury retrograde began at 18 degrees Scorpio. The sun moves 1 degree a day. Mercury, I believe, I don't have the calculation, but needless to say, everything's mathematical in astrology. Everything moves by degrees and increments that are quite predictable, and then depending on the relationships they make with each other, that's when we see events that can come out of it. So we look at the degree that it went retrograde, which is 18 degrees, and the image for this, or the symbol, is a rich woods full of fall colors. So thus I am standing in a rich woods full of fall colors, and I was waiting for a sunny day to come do this for you. This gives me a much nicer feeling about how this Mercury retrograde is going to play out, because it's a very beautiful image. The leaves are not dead, they're still alive, there's still colors, but we are starting to accept the cycle is ending for the fall, but it is not yet there. So it leaves this feeling of still hopefulness, still time. So I would suggest to you over the next 3 weeks in this Mercury retrograde to be okay with your introspection, okay with solitude, to develop yourself and delve, to have deep conversations when possible, and to maintain that sense of hope that you're walking along the woods path and the leaves have not all fallen down. And remember that for whatever's going on in your life. If you'd like to contact me, have a reading, or take some classes, please contact me at river-rain.com. I'll see you soon for your monthly forecasts.